Hello, everybody, and welcome to our first kind of Meet the Creators. I am super excited. I am Michelle Holling-Brooks, and I am the creator of the Sacred Witness Oracle Suite. And I also have with me the other major creator in this project, which is Kim Ganley, and she is the artist and the illustrator. She's amazing. We're going to get to hear more from her here in a minute. And then one of my other beautiful team members out here at Unbridled Change, we have Megan Calloway. And Megan she's gathered together some of the different questions that people had about the Oracle. How did it come about? How did it turn from a book into three? All the different things of what it was like for us to come together, to collaborate, and to give birth to this amazing offering. And I'm so excited to share more about it. So I'm just going to pass it over to you, Miss Megan, to ask those questions, and we will dive in and see where we go.
All right. Well, I guess the first question I've got for you is what inspired you to create the Oracle deck? What is the
That's a great
origin
question.
story?
Yeah, so originally it wasn't to create an Oracle deck at all. That actually was like a future thing. I was like, oh, eventually when I get more established in writing my books, I would love to create some decks and have, more experiences for people at all different levels of whether they wanted a quick card pull. But no, my first original thing with this whole offering was to do a book. So my second book, Trauma Informed Enlightenment, the healing, awakening to the healing power of the sacred witness, is the roots of this oracle. And it was an answer to my first book, The Horse Cure, where people were asking me, hey, Michelle, I love the stories you shared and the healing space that you created was so powerful. How did you do that? How can I do that for myself? How can I do that for my clients? And this book, The Trauma Formed Enlightenment, is an answer to that. It's like having me and a coach in a box and a book, and with you, walking you through the very same steps and stages that I would meet a client with. Helping them build that bridge of connection is the name of my kind of framework back to themselves, of really awakening to and witnessing their own self with the energies of the sacred witness, which is very different from just a self-inquiry reflection kind of point of view. And as I was getting closer and closer to the end of this lovely book, and I was starting to edit it and starting to bring it into passing it out to different publishers and trying to figure out what it wanted to do next, I kept hearing, hey, Michelle, this needs a deck. It has a deck. You want to add an Oracle deck to this. And I was like, oh, yeah. Let me publish the book. Then I'll do the deck. I'll do it next year. I'll do it next year. And so that was in 2024. And I was thinking it would be like 2026 when I would focus on writing the deck. And I was like, okay. But no, it had a different opinion and it decided to really push. And so in like November of 2024, when I was all finished, it was starting to go to the final copy edit and everything else like that. I like woke up one morning and I was like, this has a deck. And I downloaded, originally only had 54 cards, right, Kim? Was that the original number, 54? Two got added. And it had 54 cards in it and these short, sweet little, like, when this card comes forward, what a lot of Oracle decks have, this little trifold kind of quick bite-sized snippet of what to do with it. And I was like, okay, I want to do this deck. This seems pretty easy, not too bad. And so I reached out to my friend Kim and I said, hey, Kim, do you want to be an illustrator for a deck? And here it is. And I sent it to her and she's great. She kind of read it back and asked me a bunch of questions, which started to get me thinking. And then I started answering those questions. And little by little, the cards descriptions grew a little bit more and then a little bit more and a little bit more. And now it's a full 200+ page guidebook with complete somatic exercises and supports and guided reflections to support the cards. And then Kim and I went on a journey of creating these cards of the different guides of the images that wanted to come forward to represent the core things that are the highlights that are given in the book. So the book is the companion book, the guidebook, is the quick version of it. And then the Oracle deck is the imagery of the different core themes and places that we can lean into to really find ourselves in healing. So it all came forward in a compressed timeline. And from what would you say, Kim? December to now, we've hit the
Right.
ground running
Yeah.
and brought forward a really amazing, powerful deck full of animal medicine and plant medicine. That was I'll let Kim talk about that game changer that came forward in there. And also then the guidebook that goes with it. So now it's 3 products in one.
That is a great segue into my next question. So you've mentioned the 3 products. Can you tell us a little bit about what inspired each of those and how they're going to work together?
Yeah, so the deck I think is the entry point of connection for most people. For me, Oracle decks were a huge part of how I started to sort through the very like conflicting layers of a part of me felt this way, a part of me felt that way. I felt like some guidance coming in, but it was like getting lost in translation or garbled, or I would feel really strong with something and then come back and I'd start poking holes in it and self-doubt was coming forward. So Oracle decks were a huge part of my own awakening journey to my own wisdom because they let me land in something. I could go do a card pull, see that image, let the metaphor of that image talk to me, go to the guidebook, be like, oh, that's exactly what I was feeling. And it would also open me up a little bit more to hear something else. And then from there, I would take it because I love frameworks and I would dive in on my own into some of the deeper questions that it was. So that is the same framework I wanted to do with this offering of this suite in the bundle. I wanted it to have the imagery to speak to you because images transcend words. Then the words to support, like, oh, that is what I was feeling, and this is a little bit more. And then for those that want to go deeper into really some of that deeper rewiring and witnessing and really seeing the roots of what is happening and what could be possible, that's where the companion book, Trauma Informed Enlightenment, comes in and gives you that structure, gives you some more story to go with it, because I really believe in the power of story, from my own life of awakening to that different concept, and then also another practice that really kind of lets it sink in a deeper somatic way to embody what that card was inviting you to do. So I see it as this beautiful three-prong approach. Quick day, draw a card, see that image, and maybe that's as far as you go. Maybe you flip to the book and the guidebook, and you kind of get when this card comes forward, kind of high level thing. Maybe you even do the short somatic practice that's in the guidebook. And then if you really kind of feel one that keeps coming back, or you feel really drawn to work with one card for a little bit longer, that's when you can dive into, and it references you right, it hones you in right where you need to go in trauma-informed enlightenment, for that deeper dive into that particular topic. Now, I think you could read the whole book, Trauma-Informed Enlightenment, but it's designed to really support each other and help give you different levels of support.
And then you kind of touched on this already a little bit, but can you tell us a bit more about how you decided to partner with an illustrator for the deck, and a little bit more about your experience working with him?
Yeah. So Kim and I first met at an Eden Energy Medicine training, and it was super fun. I think we met, did we meet in the lobby, Kim?
I think we went in the lobby of the hotel, right? We're gonna hop a shuttle to go grocery shopping.
Yeah, and so we started chatting in the shuttle, and then we kind of went our separate ways, and then we came back and we kept chatting, and then we were just like drawn to each other and supported each other throughout that whole training, and it was super fun. And I didn't know she was an illustrator at that training. That was something more that as we kept kind of crossing paths and reaching out to each other, she started following some of my podcasts, and she would send me her art based off of like a quote that I had or something like that. And first that was kind of crazy seeing my quote back in art. I was just like, oh my gosh, that's it, like that's what we were talking about. So I already kind of started to develop that real confidence that Kim could take what it is I was sharing and bring forward these deep energies and reflect that in art, which is not easy to do with these bigger esoteric kind of points of view. And every time, everything she showed me, I was like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. And she started to really unlock this artist side. I'll let her talk about that more here in a minute. But yeah, so she was the first person I thought of because I'd already like seen that she had that depth and that awareness of the sacred witness energy within her. So I didn't have to try to explain something to her. She already had it. As an energy medicine practitioner, she's a Reiki master as well and teacher. And she's also works with EFT. So she's got this beautiful healing modality as well as a practitioner and the artist to boot. So it was a great pairing. So yeah, that's what got me to reach out to her, and she said yes.
Yeah. That's amazing. It's definitely very meant to be, like right from the start. All right, so we'll move over to you, Kim. What was it like for you to work on this project?
It was a journey. I think it was a little bit of excitement mixed with nervousness. But as we started the journey, overall, I was extremely grateful for this project. It built me not only as a spiritual coach, but also as an artist. Just working, for about now 5 months, doing strictly paintings and taking such profound messages and translating them into the art um, was quite a journey. And I think, the biggest challenge probably for me was to not really get too immersed in the section of what Michelle, was teaching, but to really stay on task and create an image that she asked me to create. So while I found myself kind of torn of like really wanting to sink in and go deep and kind of translate some of the messages in the art. Really, as I started, I thought to myself, because it's so profound, to really just stay on task and not immerse, too much. So.
Thank you for that. That kind of is a great segue into my next question, and you already kind of touched on it, but were there any other areas of struggle as you were working through Michelle's inspiration for this set?
Sure, there was. Up until now, I mean, I think this is really going to be kind of shocking as we share this product. But I really only have ever painted people, and as we got going, I thought, okay, this is going to be great. I can do people. I'll do all these different flares on it, and Michelle did not give me one person to paint. So as she was coming up with all these different beautiful images, there was a part of me that was a little bit scared because I never had painted probably good 95% of the images of the deck. So it's kind of exciting to kind of put this out there and say these are my first, these are my first painting possums and stags and woodpeckers and foxes and beavers. So that was a challenge to really step out of my comfort zone and take a chance on these new images.
Wow. I mean, I've seen the cards and I can say that is definitely very shocking. I didn't know that. And that is wild because they are beautiful. You would think you do that all the time. Um, okay, Michelle, we'll go back to you. As we're talking about the cards, what was the process of developing each card and how did you pick the image in which animal or plant being wanted to be represented for the deck?
Yeah, I do just want to honor Kim here for a quick second. I did throw her a massive curveball because I didn't have this inspiration to have this all base in animal and plant guides when I first reached out to her. So even some of the images that I was like, ooh, like this one for inspiration, we were still working with people. And I sat in a meditation with one round of it, and it was very clear. It was like, if I stay in people, that it automatically puts people into a comfort zone in their head of one of those protective stories and thoughts. It like lodges us a little bit into how we perceive ourselves. And this deck really wanted to help people break free from those habitual ways that we see ourselves and the way that we really see the world and other beings around us. One of the things that I really hone into in trauma-formed enlightenment is some of the stories are with animals or with a creek being. And that's one of the main stories in there where I share an experience that happened to me when I was working with water and rock and trees and embracing being like that child that wants to just dance and have fun. And all that medicine for me is a very real part of my world. It just doesn't come from human beings. And so all of a sudden, this deck really challenged me, like, are you going to become completely transparent, completely open, that you view all beings the same, and you actually really honor the medicine and the perspective that these other beings bring to you in addition to humans. You know, like, we are humans, we're having a human experience, but part of what we've gummed ourselves up in is separating ourselves from the wisdom of all these other beings, including these other aspects of us. So I sat in that meditation and I came back to Kim and I was like, no people. And she was like, okay, Michelle. And then she was like, so what are we going to do? And I'm like, well, it's going to be animals and plants, and stone beans are going to be in there, but in the different colors for the quote suits or sections. And she's like, can I put like an image of a person in a tree or with this? And I'm like, nope. I can't have them in there anywhere, to really help us break out of this mold that we're really taught from the very beginning. And for those of you who don't know my story, when I was 13, I was in a coma. And so it wiped me completely clean when I woke up from an illness of that. And so the conditioning of what a human is and isn't, and also what a plant is and isn't, or an animal, that conditioning is not present for me. So this is a very easy conversation, but I get for other people that it's not super easy. So one of the things that I did for each card has a different theme. So for example, healing presence. Kim mentioned the stag, and I love that card. And she's never drawn a stag before. And so like when you see this card, it is just breathtaking. It brings in the energy of stag, and stag is all about that ability to have a soft but yet strong presence with ourselves, a way that we feel that we are protected, but and to be a vulnerable self. And it also comes with a sense of courage, right? And so that card brings that forward. There's beautiful blueprint spruce pines that she just put into the picture. And those spine or those excuse me, those trees bring forward a beautiful essence of compassion, the ability to be deeply rooted, and also working with the spiritual realms of us at the same time. And so Black Spruce really wanted to bring in that energy as well. And so she was able to channel that in kind of on her own and start to work with the plant medicines as she got deeper into this deck, which I just think is really beautiful because it brought her into an area that maybe she did not have in her zone, but yet because she was willing to partner with my first round of this is who I would like to be based off of my meditations with that deck and what guide wanted to come forward for it and give her my inspiration, she then took that inspiration and continued to talk with those different mentors. But maybe she can talk about what that was like, taking that inspiration and going from there.
Yeah, and I think as you beautifully say, to kind of add, yeah, to be open and curious and to be vulnerable. And as the illustrator, that's exactly what I had to do, is to trust in myself and to, trust Michelle's vision and to just be so vulnerable to say, I can do this. I can put this out out here and, still put my artist touch on different things. So we did kind of collaborate back and forth and, she would say, okay, I'd like a dandelion blowing in the wind. And,
Mhm.
then, sitting there and again, like that balance of not going too deep with it, right? To actually go through my own healing of the reflection and the journey, but to stay in that illustrator and keep that artist hat on and go, okay, well, how can we make it unique? And so I think that card release,
Mhm.
kind of came and came out and had its own little flair. So I was able to add different things in to each one to kind of make it my own on top of what Michelle was kind of already requesting.
Yeah, that card in particular is really fun because I had been playing with dragonfly energy and I knew that it wanted to be in the deck. I just didn't know where it wanted to go. And so when Kim and I sat and we went through all the cards and I was like, this one is like blowing the winds. And she was like, what if we bring dragonfly in here? I was like, oh my gosh, I know the dragonfly energy wanted to be in here. I just didn't know where. And there it was, beautifully in there. So that was another huge moment for me to really open to collaboration. One of my protective mechanisms is I just kind of hold up by myself. And this creating this deck and this offering was something beyond just me as the main creator, really opening to somebody else. It did ask me to step into that trust and that faith that somebody else could honor and channel and work with the same respect for these different beings that I could, and that was so beautiful for me to just really lean into more trust, more faith, and more openness. And definitely doing a project like Sacred Witness Oracle, we have to be open to that sacred witness energy ourselves. And I have learned so much and grown so much in creating this oracle and partnering with Kim that I have a lot less grippiness in my field now.
Thank you.
Beautiful. Kim will go a little deeper in your creation of the cards. Were there any in particular that you really, really enjoyed working on?
I did like the stag. I just keep circling back to it because it really is a beautiful image. And what was exciting was, originally Michelle said, okay, the cards are going to be like 3 by 5. So, that's how you can paint them. And I said, well, I think we should go bigger. And so I actually painted each card at a 10 by 14, which allowed me to kind of create more detail, create more detail in the background and just really use the image that she wanted, but to really put it in its own space and its own environment. So, I don't know if I have like, one favorite. I mean, the stag is a beautiful image that's really it surprised me when it came out. And I think over the course of the deck, I've actually become a better artist. I don't think it's any secret that, the more you're painting and the frequency you paint, the better and better that you are. So, as I look through all of them now, some of the first ones I'm so proud of myself for doing those because I didn't really think, 6 months ago that I would be painting such an array of different animals and plants. But now as I'm finishing, I'm seeing that I am becoming a better painter. So there's a lot in there that are really, really awesome. But if I did say that, one that's had to stand out, it is the stag because I I loved how it brought in things that we weren't even aware of. That just kind of they really had the mind of their own, where things just kind of came out as they wanted. So yeah, so I would think that might be my favorite. I mean, Connection was also a fun one to do. It is of a fox, like unlikely pairs. So it's a fox with like a robin on the nose, which just turned out great, not only from an artistic standpoint, but also when you see the connection of a fox and a bird, being so unlikely, you just really can't help but smile and kind of feel warmth in your heart, because it is a great representation of what connection should feel like.
Amazing. What a beautiful feeling to have of accomplishment at the end of that, and growth and expansion. That's really incredible. Michelle, we'll go back over to you. As you were creating the cards, how did you create the descriptions and the guided reflections for each that are within the guidebook or the practices in the companion book?
Yeah, that again was a little coyote medicine, and there is a coyote in this deck as for the guardian of our power. And again, it came in, I thought it was going to be short, sweet, not going to require me to do a whole lot more writing, because I had just finished writing Trauma-Informed Enlightenment, and I was kind of like ready to be done from that writing space of really heavy channeling and being in that zone. And so I would have said no if you had told me that I was going to create an in-depth guidebook the way it is, the way it turned out. I really truly would have been like, yeah, no, that's not happening. Not this year, maybe in the future. So I think the way it came in, little by little, like when this card comes forward, and it was these wonderful little questions. Then all of a sudden, Kim would ask me, well, what does karmic wheel mean to you? And then all of a sudden, oh, well, here's like a quick 2-paragraph thing. This is the teaching of the karmic wheel, and a high level kind of overview of what that is and what that card then wants to invite you in. Then all of a sudden I was like, oh, but there are these reflection questions that really drill in to helping somebody move through freeing themselves up from the weight of the past and the momentum of the past. And if I can ask these 3 questions, like I know this will like unlock something in somebody. And so each of these cards, Trauma-Informed Enlightenment was definitely what I would call channeled writing. These cards and these descriptions and the guidebook for it, they are completely channeled far as what a sacred witness, kind of that energy, the healer within each of us, would be asking us. And so they were pretty unruly because when I tried to just sit and write them, like, oh, here's my block of time, let's go, let's like work this out, it would be like crickets. and they really required me to immerse myself in and to be in that space with them and open to channeling them. I tried to go in like a specific order. I tried to be all methodical with it. They weren't having any of that. They were like, you're going to talk to us right now and bring forward. And what was really beautiful is there was some part of my own life that was reflecting the questions that were happening in that card in some way, shape, form, or fashion, either through client work that I was experiencing and sharing with them, and then that wisdom transferred into the cards, or in my own personal reflections and work practices. And so the guidebook really is it takes the roots, the core concepts that are in trauma-informed enlightenment, pulls them out into shorter tidbits that mix with a key theme that we encounter every day through our lives. And so it really is a support for somebody who has a daily practice that wants to kind of cut through the white noise, hone in on a key theme that probably is up for them, and also give them right there guidance, because some oracle cards speak really like fortune cookie ease. And I honestly, I thought I was going to be able to get away with staying in fortune cookie ease world. And this deck just said, no, we really want to be a way that holds people and offers them whatever level of support they're ready to go into. The quick fortune cookie, look here, or the little bit deeper, or the one all the way into their roots of self. So yeah, this guidebook brought forward everything. And I think it's kind of funny because originally with Trauma-Informed Enlightenment, when I was shopping it around and talking to publishers about it, they kept coming back to me and saying, this is such a strong book, but can we cut like 30% of it? And because people need bite-sized ways of working with it. And I was like, man, that would take like half this book out. I don't know about that. And so it kept coming back to do the self-publishing journey. And then I looked at the guidebook and I'm like, oh, this is the book that those publishers so they were giving me some like a heads up that there was another book in me. It just they want to go together. They want to talk to each other and be to be in there.
Love that. Before we go, we're going to talk more about the self-publishing stuff down the road, but were there any cards in particular that you really enjoyed creating or that really stood out for you in this experience?
I loved creating the engage card. And I had no idea, honestly, what to put for the image. When that one got sent to Kim, it had all the write-up. And then under like my suggested imagery, I was like, question mark, no clue. And the story, the main gist of that one is that we can create the life that we love, or we can call forward different things that we want to experience, but we don't always, quote, take it out of the box. We don't let ourselves get our boots muddy and get the wrinkles from laughter on our face. And we don't want to like mess up those new shiny things or take the risk of it getting a ding, a scratch or a dent, so to speak, metaphorically or physically. And so that engage card is a great reminder, and it's a heads up when that card comes forward that says, hey, where have you actually created the joy, the laughter, the fun, the experiences, the connections, yet something is holding you back from actually fully stepping into it. And so it walks you through a series of questions. And Kim came back and she was like, again, just like the dandelion or the dragonflies, she was like, hey, what do you think of an elephant here? And she showed me this like inspiration image of like an elephant spurting paint up into the air and it coming down, kind of like I don't know if you ever did any of those color runs and stuff like that. And so it looked like that. And I just absolutely loved that because that was like the essence of what that card was asking you to explore in the guidebook. And there it is in a beautiful card. That really is like, one, you can have all the paint around you. And the elephant has wisdom attached to it. There's such great medicine. And again, I knew elephant wanted to be in the deck somewhere. I just didn't know where. And Kim was like, it's right here. And so like you can have the paint around you. You can even like pick up the paint. But if you don't like engage it, throw it out there into the universe, let yourself get messy with life, you're only half living, right? And so I loved that. That card was one of my favorite just serendipities of it all coming together.
Love that. You mentioned earlier about your growth along this journey. Can you talk a little bit more about how developing this oracle impacted you personally?
I think like what that card was saying of engage is that it really helped me recognize one, the breadth of the work that I have established as a professional in the healing and spiritual arts world. That I really have dived into this journey and I do create these beautiful sacred spaces, and that I have learned from the wisdom of all these different plants and animals and humans that have been in my world and brought it forward in a way that is accessible, in a way that supports people. So that was a really beautiful reflection back to me. That imposter syndrome can always come in different ways like that. The other thing is, as I was creating this book, my life was happening. Like all these different things were coming in, and it's from the time that I first started writing the first draft to when I did the second draft and to where this is here now. This is a span of 3 years that I have worked with this, and the different life experiences that I've been asked to like step into have been quite problematic, from relationship shifts and changes, how to set healthy boundaries, how to let go of something when I'm being guided to let go of it and open to something new that wants to come in. Is how do I honor each of those different stages? Even giving birth to this, it's like, oh, I've had it here as my own personal growth opportunity, and now can I let it be shared with the world? Can I do it through self-publishing? All these different things have been to where I have really leaned into it. Even just now, I just opened an email from the editor for the book, the guidebook, and he was just saying, thank you so much for this guidebook. As a personal note, he was going through like some of the things that the guidebook was bringing. He said, I found it so helpful. I went back and I read like 3 different cards were really something that I rooted myself in. So again, even though that was a person that I hired to edit something, they're writing back and saying, wow, in the editing of this, the support that I needed was right there with me. That's the magic of this oracle. I'm in awe of it every day because it is bigger than me.
Wow. Kim, did you have the similar kind of experience, or how has working with the Oracle shifted the way that maybe you access medicine through the sacred witness, if it has?
You know, my story is, I have 2 kids. I've gone through ups and downs, and while I've always been a creative, I really believe that art is kind of a way to come step into yourself and come back home and release emotions. When life, you're going to have stress and uncertainties, and the messages and the reflections that Michelle is sharing um allows us to kind of, yeah, like step out of the box, and that's what I did with the art. I really did allow it to transform me and put me on a journey that I never thought that I was going to be on. So, you know, I I created art, and I did the art that we kind of spoke about with people, and I found it just therapeutic and meditative as a way on my own journey to get me kind of through the uncertainties. And now that I'm working as a full-time illustrator and artist, it really gives me an opportunity to work on each card and immerse each card with that kind of reflection. So I am just so deeply grateful for this opportunity because it is exciting. There's 3 products that are extremely beneficial. And so I'm just forever grateful that I can have kind of put my own little um, self in these and share with the world the art that goes so perfectly with all the images and all the reflections.
I love that. Michelle, let's circle back to the self-publishing that you had mentioned. This is your first self-published project and your first time working with Kickstarter. Can you tell us a little bit about what that process has been like and how you got here?
Yeah, so my first book, The Horse Cure, I was so lucky with it. It actually was a bit of a swan song for me. I was in the middle of trying to work with and heal stage 4 cancer. And when that kind of came forward, and I really was touch and go. I didn't know which way it was going to go. 80% of my body was covered in cancer. And I was like, I really want someone to hear and know that horses aren't just a tool, they're not just a mirror, that they're a being and they are in partnership with us when we invite them into human healing. So it was really dedicated towards that part of my life of the journey that horses had. And actually in this book, you get to meet my very first mentor of the Sacred Witness, which is a beautiful horse named Schedule A. And so I share that story in both The Horse Cure and then a little bit differently in this book that really encompasses that I worked with horses differently, I saw them differently, and therefore that informed completely how I did equine partnered psychotherapy. And then it's how I informed how I worked with energy work, how I worked with mental health therapy, how I worked with coaching. All was very rooted in the very first lessons. I like to say everything that I teach and that I share and I show up in a room, horses were my original teachers. And so when I was doing my first book, I kind of was like, okay, I want to capture some of these stories. I'm going to teach through story and parable. And so if somebody knows how to look at what they're looking at, they'll catch my bridge of connection. They'll catch anything. But if not, I really want to capture the hearts of people that they're, when they go to look at a horse, just don't see this big, magnificent, free being, because that might not be true if they've been conditioned into responding and only being able to act in a certain way. You're actually looking at a being who's very shut down, very disconnected, just like we are. And so how do you unbridle that? How do you open that up? That's the name of my business, is Unbridled Change, is how do we free ourselves from those shackles of that conditioning and allow our heart energy to be there and to be present. So luckily I met a beautiful person, AJ Moore, who's the photographer of that book, but she's also a published author. And AJ kind of like came in and helped me kind of capture the different stories and took the lead on reaching out to publishers, since she had done that. And Trafalgar Square Books, which is a leading horse niche publisher, picked it up, loved the story, and then published it. I loved working with them. They were amazing. And so that kind of all happened, and I was so grateful to how it happened, and so naive, because I was like, oh, I'll just rinse and repeat. Like, I know how to write a proposal. I've already done that. And I just had no idea how the stars aligned to get the horse cure forward. It actually was like fast tracked. And by the time the publisher picked it up, it was only 6 months before it was out and for sale. And I was coming back cancer free at that time. So like the whole type of my world was just in this like, oh, lovely little grace overlay. You know, I didn't really get it until I went to do those steps with this book. I'm so grateful to it. I absolutely understand now, looking back, that I needed that support with the first round. It absolutely would not have come out if I did not have it, because I did not have the energy or the ability or the bandwidth to do any of that with the horse cure. But this book, the universe is like, Michelle, you you are going to get to experience what this is to shop something around, to have offers given to you of like, hey, if you're willing to do X, Y, and Z, we'll publish your book. And then really feeling into that place of scarcity and comparison and worry. Am I making the right choice? And then ultimately making the choice to self-publish and to hold the integrity, where if I had gone the publish route, Trauma Informed Enlightenment would still be a beautiful book, but it'd be half or a third of what it wanted to be. And the Sacred Witness Oracle would never have been born. The guidebook would have never been born. My knowing that, wow, I can reach out and bring in beautiful people, like it brought you and Megan and Kim in, and like the expansion of just really allowing myself to go beyond this little hermitage of unbridled change. All of that would not have happened if it had gone the traditional publishing route, because I would have just allowed them to tell me who, what, when, where, and why, which hey, I'm open to it now. Could come in for the next round, but really allowing this, and even the Kickstarter campaign, that was so scary, because that platform is like an all or nothing platform. And some of these other platforms, since I run a nonprofit, really alerted me, but it kept shoving me back to Kickstarter. And really putting that faith that, hey, Michelle, there are people you will only reach through this platform. There are people who will never know from you if you don't allow yourself to get out there this way, take this risk, and allow yourself to see that the universe does give back. So again, like I said, this project has challenged every protective mechanism I had after 20 years of being in business for myself that I didn't know I had until it knocked on my door. And I was like, wow, that's still there. Okay. let's take a look at that in a very beautiful, loving way that really opened me to exploring in a whole new way. And I get to meet so many amazing people. Like the people that are helping us with the Kickstarter launch boom, they're amazing people in that community, the Kickstarter community itself, all of Kim's amazing friends, letting her like help support it as well and share. It's just been kind of crazy. If you had asked me 2 years ago, would I be willing to do this? I would have said no. That's the power of leaning into the sacred witness, right?
Amazing. All right. So I've got one last question, and I'll ask both of you this one. And I'm going to try to get you to answer in just a couple short sentences. If you were to say the one biggest unique feature to this oracle, Michelle from a content perspective, Kim from an illustration perspective, what makes this oracle unique?
Me, the sacred witness energy invites us into both awareness, reflection, healing, but also choice and change and action, creation, engagement. And so that's what I think this set of 3 tools really does. It helps us illuminate it. It helps us kind of lean in and untangle it, but it also helps us move into action that's aligned with our heart and our soul. And I love that about it. It helps all the different phases of that healing and awakening journey.
I love that. And also for people on all of their different phases, they can dip in all of these different ways with this different level of guidance. I think that really opens it up to more than just those who already kind of have some familiarity with this work. Kim, from an illustration perspective, what makes this oracle unique?
I think what makes it unique is that there are no human, there's no people in it. So we do have this opportunity through a creative stance to kind of look at all the different beings that are illustrated. And while we can immerse in it and find it very relatable, the different animal beings and plant beings allow us to kind of step back and kind of look out and gives us a good point of opportunity to reflect. And then, obviously coming back to ourselves. So from a creative standpoint, I think the images really are paired great with the messages and just will allow viewers to kind of play with the deck and have fun and truly become a sacred witness.
Amazing. Michelle, do you want to just wrap it up with kind of the next phase of where this is going? Maybe a little bit about where the Kickstarter is at and what people can do next and just kind of the next steps.
Yeah, so the next steps is Kim and I are on the home stretch of finishing out the deck. We've got just a few cards that have been kind of wanting to wait. And also from a creative standpoint, like I said, it just finished that copy edit. It's getting ready to go to layout design with amazing people over at the book designers. And they are just amazing. When you see the beauty that is in both the book, in the guidebook, and then the care to format the cards, it's just wow, it's so amazing. So we are in that stage of coming into production, and so that is where the Kickstarter comes in. It helps us to be able to offset these 100% of the proceeds of this oracle and all 3 products of it, just like the horse cure, go back to supporting. So I guess this is another unique thing about this particular offering, to support scholarship and horse funds for Unbridled Change. And so a while ago, I was like, I want to get off the grant writing circuit because we had to like follow what was up for like what people and put them in these quick niche packages. And then I really couldn't offer people a true sliding fee scale to be able to support them where they need it and how they need it. And so I really wanted to come up with a way to support those scholarship funds that wasn't so grant dependent. And that's where these books came in. And it was like, hey, offer these books, these products to other people. And so it's a win-win. As they get something to help them on their side, they're giving back and helping on the other side. So the Kickstarter is huge because, again, this is all being produced through a nonprofit for other people for those services. And so coming in with and supporting the Kickstarter campaign to help us cover those production costs. It doesn't cover my time or the 3 years of writing it, but just really truly coming in there to cover those nuts and bolts of it is huge, and grow that scholarship and grow those horse funds so that we can keep providing top-notch care to both people and to animals that really support them and give them what they need to flourish in life. So that's where we're at. It's super exciting. You can join the pre-launch one. You can upgrade to a VIP where you get to hang out with Kim and I a little bit more. I'll be doing like more in-depth card pulls in there and deeper shares in that VIP one. And so that's also available. And it also gives us a really good number of how many people are ready for this product. So we can go to print sooner, because then I'm willing to like pull that button and click yes to going ahead and committing those funds to it, because we know who's already committed to really supporting and wanting this in their toolbox as their healing toolbox as well. So that's kind of where we're at right now. And for it to be in your hot little hands, depending how many VIPs we get, the sooner we can click that button. It's going to be coming out in fall or early winter of 2025. But my goal is to have it to everybody before holiday gift season. So keep this in mind. This is a great gift to give to people, either the deck, the guidebook, and the deck in a beautiful box set. Oh my gosh, the box set, Megan, is so nice. It's like upgraded. It's beautiful. And Kim's artwork, the owl of the sacred witness, is on the front, or the whole suite, which is the box set plus the book. It's a great addition to anybody's toolbox.
Amazing. All right, ladies, that's all I've got for you. Thank you so much for your time. This is very exciting. This project is going to be incredible. And yeah, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.